All right, welcome again, everyone. My name is Christine Dykeman. I am working at the Monmouth County Workforce Development Office in Eatontown, New Jersey, and I'm bringing to you today our veteran representative, LaPora Lindsey. Now, LaPora has some veteran experience. She's been all over the world in her military career. She's been training all about resume style and career counseling and job search techniques to veterans as well as non-veterans. But today we're going to talk a little bit about veterans transitioning back from the military experience into civilian experience, and the words that we use on our resume really is the same, but she's going to talk about that today.
I hear you.
And how you can do that. Hi.
I can't hear you.
So what we're going to do today is let LaPora explain how to do that. There will be some resume examples that are sent to you after the program with the link to this recording. And you have some handouts that I sent to this morning that are worksheets that you can use and follow along as LaPora is going through. How do we set up accomplishments and what do we say for star examples and all of that good stuff. So take it away, LaPora, because I appreciate you coming and sharing all your information with us.
Thank you so much, Christine. Thank you for the opportunity. Hello, everyone. Good morning, perhaps good evening, depending on where you're joining in from. So hi, I'm LaPora, and I am so excited to share some wonderful things with you today. Some of the things I'm just going to tell you now, you may have already heard it before. Some of the things you may not have heard before, but if you are willing to put in the work, and you're going to hear me say this time and time again, if you're willing to put in the work, you are going to see how very valuable this tool can be for you in learning how to write an effective resume. This is something that I have been sharing with military spouses, with veterans, and every single time that they have put in the work, they have seen the results. So I hope you're excited, because I'm excited to share this information with you. But before we get into it, and before I really introduce myself, I want to ask a couple of questions here. And you can just feel free to put it in the chat pod, or if you just want to just answer it in your mind, either one is perfectly fine. All right, so just 3 questions. So the first question is, myth or reality? A civilian resume or a private sector resume only needs to be 1 page long. Is this a myth or reality?
You can put your answer in the chat box. I am happy to share that with LaPora. Let's see. Myth. Ooh, wow.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Myth, lots of myths, right?
Yes, love it, love it. And yes, you're right. It is a myth. A resume does not need to be just 1 page. It really depends. And you're going to hear me say that time and time again. The length of the page depends. The trend right now is right around 2 pages. But again, that depends on the amount of experience that you have. And it depends on the level of position that you are applying for. Second question, a job application and a resume are the same. Is this a myth or a reality?
Love that question, LaPora. Wow. Is it the same or is it different?
Or is it different? I don't know.
Different. No, different, not the same.
Yes, love it.
Different.
Yeah, y'all are okay. Why are y'all here? Yes,
I
absolutely.
know. I was just gonna say that, LaPora. We don't need you. They don't need you. They know.
They already got it. Absolutely, it is different. So a job application, consider that to be a document with required information on your background history. They need to know everything. They need to know your address. Sometimes it requires your social security number. So it requires a lot of personal information that you would not need to include in your resume. A resume is a marketing tool. It's all about the information that you are deciding to share, not the information that you are required to share. Now, you need to be honest. Put that forward. You need to be honest, but it's just about how you are presenting that information versus a job application. All right. Last question of the day. Well, not last question, but last question for this particular slide. 70 to 80% of the jobs are never posted. 70 to 80% of jobs are never posted. Is this a myth or is this a reality?
Oh, we got a lot of truths in our chat box here. Reality, myth, question mark. True, myth, reality.
I love it because this one was actually meant to throw people off a little bit.
Very true. I got a very true here from Pauline.
So
for the cast, like
That's great. It was great. I love it. So this one is actually a little bit of both. This is actually a statement that actually came back. You ready for this? This came out in 1980. And so when this was posted, as far as with the 70 to 80%, yes, posted, yes, but now so much has changed. So right around now, there are different avenues in which jobs are posted. So you have 24% that are dedicated to referrals. You have 17% that are dedicated to the career sites, as in the actual companies posting. You have 18% that are dedicated to job boards. 9% is a direct source. 4% is a recruiting agency, and 20% is attempt to hire. So you'll see, even though it's not necessarily that 70 to 80%, there are multiple avenues to be able to find an opportunity. And so what does that mean for you? It means that resumes are useful. And so that's why this is such a useful workshop for us today. All right, so I wanted to wait to introduce myself because I didn't want to put you to sleep first thing today. So just a little introduction about myself. My name is LaPora. I am a MCPC, which basically stands for a Master Certified Professional Coach, another way for a life coach. I focus on career coaching and life coaching, and I am also a CPRW, which stands for a Certified Professional Resume Writer, and I've been a Certified Professional Resume Writer since 2014. I'm a military spouse, y'all, and you know what that means? I've been a military spouse for the past 13 years, and I have had 10 jobs. And let me tell you, it's not just because I decided that I wanted to pick jobs here and there. It's just because that's what the Navy has brought into my life. So I'm really good at finding career opportunities and being able to land those jobs. And so I've taken that experience of being able to get those struggles, and I've meshed it with my knowledge and understanding in order to be able to help share information to veterans, non-veterans, and military spouses. I assist with resume writing, and I also do keynotes, but my favorite passion is always the training, which is why I'm so honored to be here today. And I'm very grateful to Christine for this opportunity. Okay, so y'all ready? I know y'all ready. We're gonna get into it now. All right, y'all, I got to start with the bad news. There is no magic wand when it comes to resume writing. None whatsoever.
I want a magic wand though.
There's no magic wand. I know, I gotta lay out the facts early on because I don't want anybody to get too excited. But there is this formula, and I call this formula FATUKA. And I'm not going to give you what each letter means right now, because then you may not stay until the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through each slide, and each slide we're going to cover what each of these letters mean. And y'all, I'm telling you, if you follow these steps, you put in the work, you're going to see the results. This is how you get interviews, is by following these particular steps. And so if you're ready for that, I hope you got your pen and paper or pencil. We're going to go ahead and get into it. So the first letter is F, which stands for focus. You have to know your focus. Before you even sit down to do your resume, it is so very important for you to know and have identified the skills that you are able to offer, and to identify your career target before you start on your resume. Because if you don't, I'm going to tell you, the recruiters are going to be able to see the lack of focus. Hiring managers are going to be able to see the lack of focus. Anybody who's reading your resume is going to be able to see the lack of focus. So identify your skills, identify the career target that you're aiming for. And then that last piece right there is to fill the gap. Filling the gap is determining what education that you need, if there is any additional experience that is needed, if there are any additional information that is needed, what additional is needed for you to match your skills with that career target. And so you may be saying,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, LaPora, but so many people come to me and they say, okay, I got all this, but if I am focusing on one part, then I could do a lot of different things, but if I focus, then I'm leaving out all the other stuff that I am qualified to do.
Love the question.
What do they do?
Love the question. So here's the thing. So when I say focus, you are focusing on that particular resume. Right.
Okay.
So if you say, I want to be in information technology. Oh, no, wait, I really want to have a job as an instructor. Oh, no, wait, no, I really want to work in administration and hospitality. That's perfectly fine. But you have to have the focus for each one. So you have to designate focus for information technology. All of your research is going into that resume for information and technology. If you're wanting to go into hospitality and administration, all of the focus for that resume needs to go into that resume. The issue usually comes in is when we have all of these hopes and desires, all of these different career targets, and we try to marry them into one document. That's where the problem comes in. So it's
So does
very
that
important.
mean that we need to have 86 resumes?
No, you have a master resume. A
Okay.
master resume.
Yes. Yes. I agree with you.
I'd pull that out.
Pull out the different pieces that correspond to the different industries. Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for a lot of other people, when it comes to knowing your focus, you may say, well, how do I determine my career target and how do I know what I need to do to fill that gap? So the main part there is to understand the industry standards. And this is the things that I usually recommend. I recommend looking at 3 to 5 jobs, any location. What you're focusing on is the job title. You could use Career Builder, you could use Monster, you can use Indeed.com. I'm sure there's other job search engines that are available, Glassdoor, whatever the case may be. Look at 3 to 5 jobs. Don't worry about the location. Focus on the job title and take a look at how those jobs are being described in that job announcement. The second thing you can do for the veterans, mynextmove.org/vets is a great site where you have the opportunity to look up different positions. And you also have the opportunity to be able to translate your skills from the military and figure out how a civilian, people like myself, how would we describe the job that you're doing? And then last but not least, doing informational interviews. Talk to people who are already in the field, who are doing the job that you want to do. Not only will this give you an understanding of the industry, but it could also potentially open up some doors for future career opportunities. So those are the 3 things that I recommend that you do. And this is all before you start writing that specific resume. Research and the work has to be done beforehand. And I'm going to tell you, it's going to pay off. So just, you can do it. I believe in you.
My Next Move is a wonderful site, and you can cater it to veterans or to a person that has always been in civilian life. And so it's a really great site to kind of look over what are those keywords for that particular industry. What am I really good at strength-wise? And take it from there. And it's no cost. So love that.
Yeah, I forgot that. Yeah, free 99 is.
I'm a free girl. I like free.
Me too. All right. Okay, y'all. So now we're going to do a little activity just to see how focused this resume is. So you're now the recruiter for the next 30 seconds. I need to get my stopwatch ready. I'm going to show you a resume. This person is looking for a job in education. And based off of what you see in the next 30 seconds, I want you to tell me what you're gaining from this. All right.
Hopefully you're answering the chat box, please.
Yes, please. Here we go. All right, there we go. Sorry, I muted myself. All right, that's
Was
time.
that 30 seconds already?
That was 30 seconds. So tell me, what did you see?
Oh my goodness gracious.
It's quick, right? What did you see?
I have in the chat box, I have clutter.
Okay.
More of a master, less focused. Law enforcement focus? Question mark?
Okay.
Too general, lack of focus. Law enforcement, military background, security.
Okay.
That's all I have. Oh, military police, Education in criminal science and teaching experience.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to show you what people usually get from this. They usually get that the person was a veteran, military police officer. I got that. Some people in the past have said that they saw that the person had a master's degree, teaching experience, which Christine, I believe you said someone mentioned.
Yep. Yes.
And then someone also mentioned as far as training and instruction, or did they not mention that? Am I making stuff up?
Education in criminal science, teaching experience.
All right, I'll take that. All right. So here's the thing. If someone is applying for a job in education, right, this is only 30 seconds. And this is like, this circle is based off of the things that most people tend to gather from it. What does that say? And you can actually respond. Like, I'm not.
Not focused. It wasn't focused enough.
You didn't think it was focused enough? So let's take a look here. So 12 years experience as an instructor, right? Master's in adult education, 12 years experience in training and education, law enforcement. So what does that mean? If they're talking about education and they're talking about law enforcement, perhaps what type of job are they applying for?
We're
Just
not
based
sure.
off of it. And you know why you're not sure is because of what? What are we missing?
The word.
Yeah. It's not focused enough. It's not telling us exactly what the reader needs to see, because you're looking at that in 30 seconds. And in 30 seconds, that should pop out to me right away.
So here's what we're missing. We are missing the job announcement, right? Because how can we say that something is focused or it's not focused if we don't know what we're comparing it to? So there's two reasons for this particular exercise. Number one is a resume is subjective. A resume is extremely subjective. I have showed this resume hundreds of times. Sometimes people say it's too cluttered. Sometimes people say there's not enough information. Sometimes people say, I don't know what they want. And sometimes people say, I do know what they want. So what does that tell you? It depends.
It depends.
It always depends. But the biggest thing that it depends on, even with the examples that I show you, the biggest thing that it depends on is the job announcement, being able to speak the language of the job announcement. All right.
I have said this before. I agree, because I come from a teaching background and I am currently training and development, but I would never use the term training for a teaching position. Even though they mean the same thing, I have to be a human thesaurus and know that training means education and use that word education for an educational opportunity.
Christine, you're in my PowerPoint slides.
I'm sorry. Oh my God, I went ahead.
It's okay. No, it's perfectly fine. But you're absolutely right. And we're going to know that language based off of the job announcement. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that further in. But if you have questions, please feel free to type your questions in and we will answer them. All right. So the A in FATUKA is appearance. So we're talking about bullets, font style and size, space, bold, italics, all caps, underlying, and color. These are things that I am recommending that you do. As a society, we don't like to read. So when we see things in these big, huge, large paragraphs, it can be really difficult to gather all that information. And a lot of times information can actually get lost. So if you break things up into bullets, whether they are 1 to 2 lines or actual bullets, is up to you. Break it up so that way the information doesn't get lost. Font style and size. In some of the examples I'm about to show you, you will see that size, as far as you can have font size that's too small and it can be very difficult to read. You can also have font size that's too big and make it difficult to read. And then the font style could also be difficult to read if it's not legible. Generally, you want to stick with Times New Roman, Courier New, Vernanda, Arial. So the ones that are relatively legible and they transfer across multiple platforms, so they don't necessarily get misconstrued if someone has Google Docs versus Microsoft Word. Space.
We have a question. I'm sorry
to go ahead.
Yet again, I don't know if you're going to address this. The question is, why not use a cover letter for stating the specific focus?
That's
is
a really good
being
point.
Addressed, or I don't know.
No, so yes and no. So here's the thing about cover letters. It was cover letters is actually right now trending in the industry to be 50-50. And what I mean by 50-50 is that you have a lot of recruiters and hiring managers that will not read them. They do not prefer them. And you also have hiring recruiters and managers that will read them and they do prefer them. So with that, I say that we have what I like to call, you can have a highlights of qualifications or a career summary or career profile. And that gives you a very limited, nevertheless, an opportunity to be able to describe what your focus is, and also an opportunity to have a branding statement, which we'll talk about a little bit later as well. So basically, for this position, for the military police officer, if they said, if they were applying for an instructor position and it says instructor, right after their name, then at that point, we now can correlate because they told us directly that they are an instructor or they are an educator, just depending on what words or phrases that they're using. I hope that that was helpful.
I believe so. And someone put a comment in the chat box about your cover letter summarizing what your resume says, just in case it's not read. So, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So for the space, it is about not having too many words on the page, but also not having too little words on the page. Sometimes people think, oh, I got to fill the resume. And then the margins are like all the way like at the edge of the paper and there's like no white space whatsoever. That can be very intimidating for someone who is reading hundreds of resumes, right? So you definitely want to have white space on your resume. Don't overutilize the white space, but definitely having a balance. Ideally, your margins should be anywhere between 0.5 inches to 1 inch margins. I know that before Microsoft Word used to have it set at 1.25. So generally speaking, those margins are too wide and you want to be able to shorten them just slightly. And then the bold italic.
Is that a person, like a human being viewing it, or will that affect your resume in the ATS, the size of your margins or white space or appearance?
No, it doesn't. That's not necessarily so much for ATS. That is more so for aesthetic appeal for the person that's reading it, that they are able to look at it and say, oh, okay, this isn't intimidating. This is okay.
Thank you.
Yes. And for the bold, italics, caps, and underlying in color, this is an opportunity to be able to gain the reader's attention. One thing, I don't know if you all are using LinkedIn, one thing that I am constantly hearing from recruiters is that a lot of times people are focusing on beating the ATS, but it's about being qualified and it's about showing your qualifications. You can never technically beat the ATS, but the point is to show how qualified are you. And there are multiple aspects of that. Some of them comes from solely from your resume, but there are other things that you can do as well in order to be able to show how qualified you are. And we'll talk a little bit more about those. So appearance, there are 3 primary resume types, and we're going to look at samples for each. You have chronological, which actually goes in reverse chronological order, which lists the most recent job at the top, and then it goes down to the job you had maybe 5-10 years ago. For functional, the resume more so focuses on the function. So it focuses on the skills, the abilities. This is really good for people who potentially have gaps in their resumes or gaps in their career experience, or it's a little bit of here and there, patchwork, I guess, as I would like to refer to it as. And then combination uses a mixture of both. The industry right now, the trends are chronological is the preferred method. However, it depends. Whichever one really just depends on you. It depends on your preference, but more so it depends on your experience and what you feel mostly highlights what it is that you are looking to offer in the future.
LaPora?
Yes.
I have talked to many recruiters as well, and I will pass on the information. Yes, I agree. It depends. Functional resumes, no one likes functional resumes. I have not heard one positive thing about a functional resume. I have heard positives about combination resumes, and definitely chronological, which is preferred. But if you're not getting any bites from a functional type resume, I definitely wouldn't consider keeping with that style. Try things for 6 weeks, see what happens, and mix it up and try something different for 6 more weeks and see what happens, because it does depend on the industry and who you're talking to about a different job. And there's so many factors. So just consider that as you're going through writing your resume.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Functional, unfortunately, is not the preferred, but as Christine and I both said, you just never know. So now we're going to take a look at a chronological resume. So this one is very small because, again, this is a Microsoft Word document, which has been fitted for a PowerPoint slide. And let me tell you, it's not meant to happen that way, but it's happening.
It's hard.
So one thing I will go ahead and say here, for all of these resumes, I did something that you should not do, or that I recommend that you don't do. For this particular resume, I intentionally made the words extremely small. So this is about a size 8 or 9 font, which is really small. So even in its normal size, it's still like you may have to strain to see it. And so you can kind of understand why we say considering the font size is something to think about. So for it being a chronological resume, you can see here under professional experience, it starts with the most recent experience first. You'll see career coaching starts in August of last year to present. And then the other position goes from December 2016 to, July 2021. And so that's the whole premise behind a chronological resume, is that reverse chronological order, and really just being able to list out the traits. You'll see that color has been used here, which just supports the idea that there's absolutely nothing wrong with using color in a resume, because it can absolutely help with bringing your attention to certain things. Being able to Consistency is probably key, I would say, when it comes to having different resumes. It's just being able to maintain that consistency. For the purpose of this slide, this resume has just been broken down to 1, because this would be even smaller if I had 2 pages on this particular slide. But really, just something for you to think about and keep in mind. Again, it is up to you what you are deciding to do with your resume and what is going to work for you. So this is a functional resume, but technically it is called a chrono-functional resume. And the reason why is, if you'll notice down at the bottom, it says career path. And you'll see here that it has different job titles, but there is no work or responsibilities that are designated to those particular positions. And this could be used for, as I said, if you have career gaps, or if for some reason, let's say the relevant experience is something that happened years and years ago, but it's the most relevant thing that you have, you may consider using a functional resume. One thing that I did here that I don't recommend doing is there is some consistency with the font sizes that are used. And it's just black, like it's just black and white. And so that way you can kind of see why I recommend adding just a little bit of color versus no color at all. But you'll see here under career summary and then core strengths and capabilities, like it doesn't really necessarily flow. But again, these could be like the little nitpicky things to really consider there. And
so
then
how far back should you go? You had said, like 5-10 years. What if you were at a job for 15 years, or you're going back to an industry from 17 years ago? And how do you put that on your resume?
You know the answer, Christine.
I know what the answer is. I want you to say it.
So ideally, you don't want to have to track back that far, right? You don't want to have to track back more than 10 years. However, and I think we can all say this together, it depends.
I use the example, sales is sales is sales. But 20 years ago, sales, we used a fax machine. Who faxes right now? It's email and social media. And so it's morphed and changed, even though sales is sales is sales. So you have to kind of mold and make it using those keywords, just like you had said.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Just being able to, it's a marketing tool, right? It's not a job application. So really just finding a way to put your best foot forward. What is going to sell you the best, right? So it depends. If the most relevant thing you had or experience you had was 17 years ago, then maybe functional resume works for you, and give it a shot and see what happens, right? But it really just does depend. And I know that that's not the answer that a lot of you want to hear, but it is the most honest answer that we can give. So here is a combinational resume. So there are a few things that I did here that I don't necessarily recommend. Actually, having things split on the side is not it's not a bad thing necessarily. However, it does tend to crowd up the space that is available. That being said, words should have been taken out of that right-hand side there in order just to kind of make things a little bit more legible. Also, the font style. For me, or maybe it's just my eyes because I have astigmatism, it is relatively hard to read. And it could be, again, the font style with the size, but being able to take that into an account that you're not going to be the only person reading it. So you want it to come as easily as possible for you to read, because you never know who else would be reading it as well.
I think that's a great point, LaPora, because it really does depend. This is kind of a fancier resume, but if you are a creative type going into a creative industry, you definitely want a fancier type resume to hand to somebody, to email to somebody. But if you're using an ATS, the whole left side, right side, the books for your bullets, that will not go through. So that won't go, use a black and white resume for an ATS if you're applying for a job online, but maybe use your fancy, nice resume to go to an actual human being. You got it.
Absolutely. And just being able to have those conversations. Don't be afraid to have those conversations with recruiters. A lot of times recruiters are wanting to have those conversations. Are you interested in our company? What positions are you interested in? That could be the prime opportunity to figure out what is the best way, or how is the best way to be able to submit your resume. All right, y'all. So all of these resumes had the essential components: contact information, education and training, and experience and skills. And a lot of it really just depends on what's going to work as far as does the experience and skills come first, or is it education and training come first? Is your education more relevant? Is it more recent, or is your experience and skills more relevant, or is your experience and skills more recent? And no matter what, have contact information on your resume. There are some things that have resume rules, and that is contact information for sure. And also being able to minimize, if have none at all, grammatical errors and typos. Like those are like the golden rules of all things I think everyone would agree upon. Everything else, for the most part, is fair game as far as what will work and what will not work. So we're going to talk about each of these, make sure we're tracking on time. So really quick, before I get into this, the format in which I have the contact information, the stacking, is solely for the purpose of putting all of the information on this slide. Please, I recommend, do not do your title information at the top like this. This is just so that we can see all the information at once. So these are things or elements in your contact information that you want. Name, city, state, zip. Let's talk about this really quick. This is actually a ever-evolving information to list. You can do city, state, zip. Job application, usually they're going to require, right, your full address, but it's actually acceptable now to have no information, or when it comes to city, state, and zip, listed at all. But again,
why is that?
Depends.
Why?
For so many reasons. Oh my gosh. Number one, it could be safety precautions, but also I have seen with my own eyes discrimination as well, as far as people wondering, well, why are you applying for this job and you're way over here? Like that doesn't tend to make sense to me. So in order to keep that from the scope, like they don't know where you live, they don't know your neighborhood. I've heard of people showing up at people's houses. Like they apply for a job and they're showing up at
Oh my
houses.
gosh.
I know, I've heard of people getting turned down for jobs because they lived in a certain area. So
Wow.
just being mindful that it's really up to you if you're deciding to put that city, state, and zip, but just understand that it is becoming more acceptable to not even list your city, state, and zip on your resume. Phone number, a good contact phone number, please, something where they can reach you and where it doesn't go straight to voicemail. And if it does go straight to voicemail, they're able to leave a message.
Yes.
Professional email. You'll see that I have 2 examples here. Not only is the email to the left, Saucy CC, not professional, but look at all those numbers there. Like 34356, y'all. I have dyscalculia. Like it's kind of like dyslexia, but it's specifically for numbers. So when I see too many numbers, like I'm just like 6, 2, 1, I start making up numbers. So if you can minimize that, and also you want to make sure that it is consistent with your name. I go by LaPora. That's actually my middle name. But when I apply for jobs, my email was my first name and my resume had my first name because I didn't want them to think I was 2 different people. I am the exact same person. So just being able to keep that in mind as well. And being able to have a LinkedIn or a professional web link, I definitely recommend except unless it's bare bones. If you have like a bare bones LinkedIn where you just have like your job titles, you don't talk about what you did at those jobs, you don't have a headliner, it's probably best not to even put it on your resume because the chances of them looking at your LinkedIn profile are relatively high if you have a link there. So if that LinkedIn page isn't built out, then I recommend steering from it. I see that Sharon has a hand raised. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Christine.
First, I would say if you don't have a LinkedIn profile, you need to have one. And there are videos 1, 2, and 3 that are on my website of how to get started using LinkedIn and making connections and networking. You would be disqualified and put in the B or C pile if you meet those qualifications and don't have a LinkedIn on your resume. So you really should have some kind of LinkedIn presence and visit that on a daily basis, even if it's only for 10 minutes, so that you can make those connections. So yes, is Sharon still around? Because did she come off?
I'm not sure. I don't see her, but I did see her hand raised earlier.
All right. I know that Sharon usually comes, but she's in and out because of professional things. So go ahead. We'll catch up with her.
All right. Perfect. All right. So I believe I just briefly saw a question about experience or certifications.
And are you going to get 2 certifications on your resume?
I am. Yes.
Okay.
Under this next
All right,
slide.
Marisa, we are going to get to that. What is your website URL? Your website, if you have your own website, professional website, some people do.
Oh, yes.
Some people do not. If they have one, then definitely state it that they can reach you. If not, I would recommend putting on your LinkedIn profile in addition to your email.
Absolutely.
So is a resume focus versus a LinkedIn focus a relevant concern? What do you think?
Resume focus versus LinkedIn focus. I'm not sure if I understand.
That's why I'm asking you. I think you should focus on both. Do the resume first, and that's why the videos are.
Oh, is that what they're talking about?
But yes, I would definitely concentrate and do LinkedIn as well as your resume.
Yeah, and with that too, for LinkedIn and your resume, I recommend that your resume is very specific, tailored. Like you should not, I should say. I'm not going to say you must or never, but I recommend having a very specific, tailored resume each and every time you apply for a job. You should not have 2 resumes that look the same. LinkedIn is more of a broader scope when you are creating that page. So let's say, for instance, if you're looking for a job in information and technology, specifically with, let's say, software, and then you're applying for a job in software development, but you're really open to anything in information technology. That resume should be very specific towards software development and information technology. On LinkedIn, it's going to be broader. right? Where you're talking about
Yes.
maybe software development, maybe you're talking about engineering. I don't know. I didn't work in information technology, but I'm just saying, like, keep
got
it
it.
broader.
Yes.
So hopefully that helps.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So for experience and skills, this is another component of a resume. Again, I mentioned before, having that career summary, highlights of qualification. You can have both, either or. It really just depends. But it's really providing a snapshot of your career, and it's highlighting your skills, and it's highlighting your accomplishments, those things that you are most proud of. The really great thing about the highlights of qualifications is that you can put dates on it, but you don't need to put dates on it. It's a really brief, hey, look at me. This is why I'm awesome. I'm bragging on myself, because that's what we do in resumes, right? Even when we don't want to, you got to brag. And then also that targeted career goal is listed there as well. Now, let me tell you, this is not an objective statement. Objective statements are leaving. They're leaving the industry for the most part. So more so of a career profile or summary or something along those lines, which again is targeted, or a branding statement, which is targeted towards that particular job announcement. And then in your experience section and skills, you're listing all relevant experience, all relevant. One thing that I usually have to always share is that it's not that everything that you've done in your experience isn't important, but the question is it important to the job that you are applying to? And if it's not important, as in if it's not in the job announcement, if the company is not speaking it to be a priority, it is not a priority. And so that's how you judge what is relevant and what is irrelevant for your resume, because it's going to change every single time.
So
And
what if you worked at, I don't know, Walmart for the past 4 years to pay your bills and your mortgage, but that wasn't your ideal job? Do you just leave it off your resume?
no, you don't have to, but we're going to talk about that when we get to
great.
the transferable skills. Yeah.
Thank you.
And then listing tasks that go beyond your normal duties and responsibilities. If greeted, we're going to stick with Walmart really quick. If you were a greeter, right, and you greeted, let's say 350 people a day, okay, what did you do to go above and beyond that? What initiatives did you take? And so that is also what you need to think about including in your resume. But I'll give you more specifics on how to write that out as we get into it. Someone mentioned education and training. This is a specific question section, education and training. You can list your courses, certificates and certifications. Certificates and certifications are two separate things, but you can list them all in this particular section. Graduation dates, if recent again goes to that 5 to 10 year mark. And then it's up to you, because it depends if you're wanting to share your graduation date or not. But again, just maintaining that consistency. If you're listing dates for one, then it's probably best to list them for all. If you have any type of degrees or certifications, you want to list that. You want to list the year attained, if it's recent. If there is any expiration date, because sometimes they do have expiration dates, but if it's already expired, you may not want to include that. And then the institution that you attended in order to be able to gain that particular degree or certification. And if you are currently enrolled, I see so many people that do not put it on their resume because they say, oh, well, I'm not graduated yet. Who cares? Are you enrolled? Are you taking classes? And if you are, then by all means, go ahead and put it on there. And then you can add what your expected graduation date may be. Okay. All right, now we're getting into the transferable skills. So this is a big one. So transferable skills are skills that are used in a variety of jobs. You can think about them as soft skills. So they're not technical skills per se. And they describe, the purpose of them is to describe where you're going. It is not to describe what you've done in the past. It is to describe your future. Again, remember we talked about that focus, your career target, not the past, the focus. So you're going to make it applicable and you're going to tailor it. So we're going to look at a couple of resumes here. So I really just cut this out, and just so you can kind of see here. So based on what you see here, take a look at some of the things that they've done, and let's see if you can tell what the potential transferable skill is there. You can put it in the chat.
Anybody? Are you still listening, guys?
Uh-oh.
What do you see is relevant? What do you see over and over again? She's timing us. We need to hurry. Computer literate, IT.
Yes.
Manage. DB admin.
They got it.
IT
I got it there.
security. Oh, IT.
Yes, IT, information technology. And you'll see here, this is actually, I don't know if anyone here is prior Navy, but this is a, what is it, boatswain? But so I changed it to civilian terms as a water vessel master. Like you can't really, you got to still be honest, right? In what you do. So the title is still honest to where a civilian could understand. But if you look at the focus for that position, utilize software for operations, utilize navigation of the ships, right? So we see that it's not necessarily focused on the job title for what it was, what it would be described in the Navy, but it's specifically focused on information technology. So again, if you have a job, if you've worked at Walmart, as Christine mentioned before, and the job itself, the job title itself isn't relevant, can you find ways to take those transferable skills that can be applicable to the job that you are applying to in the future? So we'll do another one. All right, take a look and tell me what you think. More so of the professional experience.
Anyone? What do you see? Leadership. Love that word.
Love it.
Law
And guess what?
enforcement, security, manager.
Yes, y'all got it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yep.
leadership and management, again, that's one of those transferable skills, right? Leadership management doesn't, it could be anywhere, right? Information technology, technically it could be anywhere, but it's about how you describe it. Now, we can't change the fact that this person was a military police officer, right? We can't say that they were the in charge of the base if they weren't. So we are truthful in what we described, but it's the angle that we decide to take. So we focus on all of the leadership and management opportunities that they had. All right, y'all. Hopefully that was helpful when it comes to transferable skills. If you can find skills to transfer to the job that you're applying to, add it. If you can't, leave it out. It doesn't mean that you're not great. It doesn't mean that you're not awesome. You are just trying to put forth the best information that's going to sell you. All right,
I
y'all.
love that. I love that, LaPora. That is awesome. Say that again.
What did I say? I don't know. I was talking so fast.
You said put your best foot forward and leave it off if it doesn't pertain, but you're still awesome. And you need to give yourselves a pat on the back. You're still awesome no matter what you do. And this slide that's next that LaPora's going to talk about, this is huge because we could all be military police officers, but we're still unique. We're different. So go ahead, LaPora, tell us all about that.
Yes, so this is the U for FATUKA, which is what makes you different and relevant,
Yes.
right? Because we can, as Christine said, there's a lot of things that a majority of us can say that we've all done, but we all haven't done it the same way.
Yes.
So let's say you have in your highlights of qualifications or at the top of your resume, you have a statement that says, hold on, I can't see this. Let's see. Here we go. Proven track record of creating programs that create impact. Okay. So that's fine for listing it up front if you want to put it up there, but how am I different from Christine?
Yes.
One of us could say potentially successfully worked. Oh, I got to move this again. Sorry.
Successfully worked.
It's me. Yeah. Successfully worked with fellow soldiers to execute a program with 85% increase rate to meet command operational readiness and mission readiness, right? Other person could say initiated several improvement programs that yielded an 85% increase in productivity and met goals for the year. If the target is sales, one of these are definitely going to meet that sales target a little bit more than the other. It's about understanding the industry, but it's about bringing your own uniqueness to it. Hopefully we'll do it. We'll do another one. All right. So uniqueness and brand. Let's say your brand is, I have excellent customer service skills. I'm the best. Okay. There are about 200 million people that have excellent customer service skills. What have you done? What have you done that's so amazing? Well, I initiated several team-focused initiatives that produced an 85% increase in personnel satisfaction. Now, again, what we share is very dependent on that job announcement. What is that job announcement asking us to share? Because even that statement in and of itself is like, But is the job announcement asking for initiatives? Are they asking for a production rate? And if they are, then being able to include that is going to be extremely beneficial. So right now, a lot of recruiters are saying when they're seeing things like customer service skills or communication skills and things like that, they're just like, well, everyone has that, but how have you specifically demonstrated that? And that's why it's so very important for you to not only list it, but you to demonstrate it, for you to show it, provide very specific examples. So I hope that was helpful. All right, y'all, we are just trucking along. We are at the K, which stands for key words. So I broke this up into two categories. Before you apply, you need to understand the industry. We talked about that before. You need to identify terms early on and frequently within that job announcement. When you apply, when it comes to keywords, mirror phrasing, which Christine talked about earlier, and we're going to talk about that again, only use relevant content, and then you need to integrate your knowledge. So before you apply, understand the industry. Hey, this slide looks really familiar. I wonder why, because it's important. So to understand the industry and to understand what types of words to use in your resume, again, look at 3 to 5 jobs at any location. You're looking for that job title, and you're looking at the words that are consistently used in each of those jobs. Own it or my next move. Both of these they're the same. They're like brother and sister. Both of these provide opportunities for you to type in just about any job and to get a list of the tasks and duties that are required, the knowledge, the education. So that way you can understand what is required for you to be able to not only fill that gap, but also understanding what words would be most beneficial as a whole. And then informational interviews, again, another opportunity for you to understand the industry and to get a hang on the verbiage that's being used, because you don't want to stick with your military jargon. You want to stick with the civilian jargon that's being used to describe that particular job.
LaPora?
Yes.
I am tired. Okay, we're only at K and I'm just done. And we haven't even finished all the other letters. Like, how much time to create this resume based on everything you're telling us? We're only halfway through.
It's a lot of work. I mean,
it is.
It's a lot of work. It really is. And that's the thing is, when people say that they've applied to 100 jobs in the past 2 weeks, I kind of cringe a little bit.
Yes.
How is that possible?
Right.
What are you submitting? Because you have to take the time to tailor each one of those. And so looking for a job is a full-time job. And part of that is the research, but the bulk of that should really be dedicated to tailoring your resume. We talked a little bit at the beginning about having that master resume. That's going to save you some time. Having that up front, doing that research up front, doing all of these steps up front is going to save you some time. And then when you're looking at that job announcement, it can cut down, because at that point, you're going to draw from your master resume, and then you're going to tailor specifically to that announcement. So you can cut down on the time to, I don't want to say how long, because it depends, Christine.
I know it depends, but you also don't want to throw your resume to the wall like spaghetti to see if it'll stick.
No, because half the time it won't stick. Yeah,
Gotcha.
Absolutely. All right. So now what we're going to do, because the second one I told you is understanding that in job announcements, it's important to see the words that they use early on and frequently. So we got another activity, y'all. I hope that y'all are still with me. We won't be going much longer. Come on, y'all. We can do it. So I'm going to show you a job announcement. Again, because I'm taking a Word document and putting it on here, it's going to be a bit cluttered. So I will give you some time here, 30 seconds, to read and to tell me the words that you are seeing frequently throughout this job announcement, and to tell me the words that you're noticing early on in this job announcement. Sorry, let me get my stopwatch together. Set. Okay.
Let me ask you, LaPora,
Oh,
are
yeah.
keywords at the top of a job description or sprinkled throughout the job description? Are the most important things that you need to know and do at the top? Or is it in order of percent on this and percent on that and spend hours a day on this? How does that work?
Oh gosh, that's a really good one that you bring up about the percentage. But first, I'll address the early on. So for the early on, what is usually one of the first things you see in a job announcement? Anybody?
Hopefully a description of the company.
Well, after that, for the actual job itself.
Your duties, what you're responsible
The
for.
Someone mentioned title. Yes, you're going to see the title. And that's kind of where that formula comes for being the things that are early on. Because if you see that title and that title says administrator, and in your resume, you have nothing, absolutely nothing about administration or administrate, then what the heck? Like, hey, that was an important word, right? That we want to make sure that we are utilizing in our resumes. And you're right. Actually, Christine, you brought up a good point about that company, because a lot of times in a lot of job announcements, you'll see that they have like their missions and they have that their values listed up there. And that could potentially be words that you could use in your resume. Because again, like I said, for cover letters, it could go 50-50, but depending on what their mission and values are, that could also be something that you can include into your resume as well. And then for the percentage, generally speaking, for the percentages, when you have those job announcements that are broken up, it says administration 55%, education 15%, this 10%. You'll notice that they'll start with that biggest percentage at the top. So if it's at that top, hey, let's make a note that that could potentially be something that I need to include in my resume. But for any of those percentages, definitely including in your resume, but also looking at the frequency as well, because that is potentially something that you could mirror, but we'll talk about that.
Thank you.
All right. So 30 seconds, y'all. Hope y'all are ready. Here we go. All right.
Compliance, standards, HR, administrative support, interviewing,
Love it. Yes.
orientations.
Yes, y'all got it. So I didn't highlight them all because then there would be a lot of red. But so as you can see, these are like action verbs that are also mentioned early on and multiple times throughout. So interviewing. So if you don't have interviewing anywhere in your resume and you're applying for this particular job, you may want to rethink that. If you don't have schedules or scheduled or whatever the case may be anywhere in your resume, you may want to rethink that. So really just taking the time to look at these job announcements and look for those words that you see consistently, and also look at that job title and look at words that you see early on. I hope that this was helpful. And if you have questions, keep asking them because I want to answer them. I get so excited sometimes I don't realize that I'm not necessarily sharing everything in my brain, but I want to share it all.
We had a guest speaker a little while ago who had introduced us to several websites for resume writing. And one of them, which some of you might already use, is Word Cloud. And if you don't want to go through the job description and try and figure out what you see over and over again, this Word Cloud lets you copy and paste it into their site, and it will tell you how many times the word assist comes up, how many times compliance comes up, interviewing, and then you'll know what those keywords are to make sure you include it in your resume. And that could be for a veteran returning to civilian life, or it could be for anybody. That's a great tool.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Thanks so much for sharing that, Christine. All right. So when we're talking about keywords, mirror phrasing. And this is something that Christine had actually also mentioned earlier. So I have here 3 greetings in 3 different languages. We have hola, we have hello, we have bonjour. Are they the same? Are they different? Well, when it comes to writing a resume, let's assume that they're different.
I love this example. It makes so much sense.
Yes, hello means hello, hola means hola, bonjour means bonjour. So if the job announcement, if it says teach, and you say, I instruct, and nope, let's try that again. The job announcement says teach, and you say, I educate. If the job announcement says teach, and you say teach, taught, the root word, keeping that root word there. Ding, 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 ding. That's what you want to do. You want to be able to mirror their phrasing, use the words that they are using. Now, with that, here's a question that I get all of the time. And it is, what about copy and pasting? So here's the thing about copy and pasting, and you may be surprised by my answer. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not opposed, but let me put that button really quickly. I'm not opposed to it because it does help to get that information on there. But please don't just copy and paste, because some people do just copy and paste. So they'll take taught or looking for someone who can teach 50 personnel, and they paste on there, teach 50 personnel. There is no uniqueness added. There are no transferable skills added. There are no numbers added. There is nothing. But if you need to copy and paste in order to figure out what words to put in there, do that. But by all means, don't just leave it as a copy and paste. You have to be able to make it your own, because I can guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people that are going to copy and paste. I can't tell you how many resumes I read that looked exactly like a job announcement. My question was, did you copy and paste this from a job announcement? And the answer usually is a shameful yes.
We do have some recruiters on the call that are watching, and I'm sure that some of them have also received resumes that are copy and pasted. So yeah, we don't recommend that you do that. Kind of doctor it up a little bit to speak to your own personal experience.
Absolutely. Please don't just leave it on there, because they're looking at the job announcement. They're like, why does this look exactly like what I
just posted?
Just use it just to get the wording. That's it. After that, make it your own. Pretty please. I beg of you.
Yes.
All right. So next slide here. Keywords. Only relevant content. I have this room to the left and I have this room to the right. What do you think about this room to the left, y'all? Go ahead, type it in the chat pod. What do you think about this room to the left?
Everything they've ever owned in their whole life is in that room. No focus. It's very cluttered. That's my room.
Perfect. Yes.
My room is not the right. Yes.
And here's the thing. If I'm trying to find a clock in that room to the left, how long do you think it's going to take? Am I even going to want to be bothered with that? Or am I going to say, the room to the right has the clock right there, and I don't have to go searching for it. And I want you to think about that when it comes to your resume, because I've mentioned this before, but I think it's so very important. It's really important to only use the content that is relevant to that particular situation. So if they are looking for a clock, a lamp, and some plants, provide a clock, a lamp, and some plants. I can break that down another way. If they are looking for someone who can teach and train, remember those words are different, right? For that job announcement, then don't put that you taught, you trained, you instructed, that you led, you managed, and you have information technology skills that you're extremely proud of, because it's not relevant for that particular job. So again, you're going to pick and choose which things are relevant, and then you're going to place them nice and neatly on a resume so that it's not so over cluttering, but provide them what they're looking for. Because the key is that you don't have to give them everything, because that's what an interview is for, right? It's for that opportunity to explain a little bit further. Last thing for keywords is to integrate your knowledge. And I mentioned this before when I talked about the copy and pasting, customer service, customer support, customer success, right? If you just say, I have great customer service, I provide great customer support, I am excellent at customer success. Like I've always accomplished that. That doesn't really tell us anything. I have my picture here because I have to explain for me how I provide great customer service. I have to share my own personal experiences. All of that, all of those experiences that you've had in the military, find what is relevant to that job announcement and what you have experienced and contributed to. So it has to be specific for you. All right, y'all, we are on the final A of FATUKA. We've talked about focusing. We've talked about the appearance. We've talked about transferable skills. We've talked about the uniqueness, the keywords, and now we are talking about the accomplishments. Focus on going above and beyond the normal scope, make it unique, and demonstrate an impact and quantify results. And so for this, you may have heard of the STAR before, which stands for situation, task, action, and results. This is a really good formula to help you figure out what accomplishments you have made. I know for the military, oftentimes we get so focused on, we are a team. We have done this together. One team, one fight. That may just be Navy. I may be saying it wrong. I apologize. But that's something to remember. But when it comes to your resume, your team is not going to get that job with you. It's just you. So you have to be able to take responsibility, hold yourself accountable for the wonderful contributions that you have provided for that team. So you may be wondering, well, how do I do this, LaPora? I got you. All right. So
LaPora, I have a question.
Yes.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're good.
What about having your personal photo on your resume?
So generally speaking, that is a no-no. If they want to find you, and if you want them to find you and see what you look like, that's what LinkedIn is for.
Because if you're looking in the USA, it is against the law.
Yes.
If you're looking in Europe for a job, that could be it depends, but in the USA, definitely is a big no-no.
Absolutely. Except for entertainment industries, which that would be one of the ones that would be more so, hey, you have a picture. They want to see what you look like because they want to see if you're going to fit the role. But for all of the other industries, I don't think that there's another one that I can think of right off the top. Don't put it on there. If you're really wanting them to see what you look like, because people say whenever they see you, they want to hire you, LinkedIn, right? Yes. Control your social media as far as the things that you post publicly and the things that you post privately. If you are writing any articles or the things like that, like all of that's going to show up if they Google you. So just being able to have it that way. So if they really wanted to know what you look like, they could figure it out. But don't give them that on a resume, similar to that physical address.
Gotcha.
Don't do
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. So for the situation, task, action, and result, I don't have a slide here that fully explained it. So I'm going to explain it. So the situation is, what was the challenge? What was the challenge? That's it. Just figure out what that challenge was that was faced at your prior work experience. The task is, how was that challenge solved? That task is, how was that problem solved? Now, this could be something that could be contributed together as a team. You all solve this together as a team. That's fine. But just what was that solution? And the action is, what did you specifically do to contribute to that solution? So what did you specifically do to contribute to that solution? Did you lead the team efforts? Did you, even if you didn't lead the overall team efforts, I know you led something. Even if you led yourself, what did you lead yourself to do? See how we take those transferable skills there? What did you manage, or how did you communicate, or how did you contribute, or how did you delegate, or how did you collaborate? You see the words that I'm taking, right? So how did you do that? And then the results are, what came from it? Was there an award given? Did it increase anything? Did it decrease anything? So just being able to keep all of that in mind. So I have a example here. So let's say the target role is a hospitality director, and let's say your role in the military was an air defense artillery officer. If you say response,
Another hospitality director, air defense artillery officer, nothing to do with one another.
or so we say.
Show
But-
me. I can't wait to hear this.
So if you say, hey, I was responsible for greeting personnel and I provided them with information on the area, right? As an officer, I'm pretty sure you've greeted people. Or are you locked away in an office all the time? Well, if you were, I hope that you would have at least greeted one or two people. And honestly, it doesn't matter. Just one or two people is all it takes to be able to put it on your resume. And then you can say, I greeted 150 personnel weekly and answered inquiries on the area, supplied documentation to support the information provided, increased department satisfaction by 25% based on feedback surveys. Look at there, y'all. Do you see what this air defense artillery officer has just done? They're not talking about the artillery. They're talking about the hospitality scope of their position. And I share this because, number one, a lot of times I think you may not realize all of the accomplishments that you have, right? You may not realize all the different ways that you have been able to create a result. And I also share this because I don't want you to feel like you're limited because, oh, I worked in infantry, or, oh, I worked in combat, or, oh, I worked over here as in carpentry, or I worked as a PAO. And the job that I want in the future is not the same. It's about finding those elements and making them and making it fit for that target. So again, your skills that you have now, identify that career target and fill that gap. Find a way to fill that gap.
Love that advice. Great advice. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So that is all that I have presentation wise. I had some frequently asked questions, but I would much rather hear your questions since we have a few minutes.
Please put your question in the chat box. I'm happy to address that. Anything that we haven't talked about already. Forgive me for not looking at the camera. I'm also looking at the chat box. All right. I know that LaPora has a appointment, and she's obviously very high up on everybody wants a piece of her, right? So we don't want to take up too much of her time, but we do have a few minutes. So that's why we are seeing, what questions we have. What is the most relevant email account to use for 2022?
Gmail.
I agree.
I would say Gmail. I mean, well, and again, that's just my own personal preference. You have other ones as well, but I don't recommend using AOL. That's the one that I would steer from because it is
Gmail
aging.
is the most current. Yes.
Gmail is the most current and the most popular trending. Yeah. I have a Ymail and people are like, are you sure that's correct? I'm sure.
Yes, I know. Yes. I agree. Thoughts on Resume Builder for master resumes versus just good old fashioned Word documents?
I am a fan of the good old fashioned Word documents. And the reason why is because for Resume Builder, it is hard to they're gonna make it look pretty, which is perfectly fine. And I forgot I had a list of them. They're gonna make it look pretty. They're not going to necessarily put in that content. I don't know of one that gives you that that overall content of tailoring it as you should. But I would worry about ATS when it comes to misconstruing the information. So if you are comfortable with Word to make things look pretty, for ATS, you want it to be relatively basic, right? And you have the capability to do that in Word and just being comfortable with it. And then with being comfortable with editing that as well. Because you can also say that you're comfortable with Microsoft Word if you can do your resume there.
How much would you include on a master resume? Is it, a few more page guides or an actual resume to work from? Are we talking in 1 page, 2 page, 3 pages? What's your opinion?
So I would say as much information as you feel like reviewing later. So a master resume think of it something as it's just for you. It shouldn't be going anywhere. just for you to be able to pull information from. And so there are no limits on how long you make it or how short you make it. But the work that you put in now will help you later. So if you have your master resume and you have multiple different focuses and you say, hey, oh, I really want to apply for a job in IT this week. Well, if that resume, that master resume is 10 pages long, perhaps there is at least 2 pages worth of information and technology that you can pull from there and then tailor it at a later time.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I believe my master resume is 13 pages and counting.
Oh, wow.
I'm not pulling all 13 pages of experience for the 2-page resume I have, but you totally forget things you did 20 years ago. And you can see a trend of repeat, and you're going to use that for the next stage, for your phone screen, for your interview, and being able to explain those stories. But if you forgot what you did, you can't use it for your star stories. So I always recommend trying to go back and include bullets. Oh yeah, I did that. You forget. And that's why your master resume tends to be a little bit longer, 13 plus, as opposed to applying for a job where you're marketing and using the keywords that LaPora had talked about in our earlier slides.
Absolutely.
Okay, so wow, you are kick a blank blank. All right, I don't think I can say that. So, but it is written in the they love you.
Oh. Thanks.
All right, very relevant. Thank you. LinkedIn has offerings for job skill phrases and statements based on job titles in your profile. Should these be used?
So yeah, I'm relatively active on LinkedIn. I like to follow a lot of recruiters, and I'm going to tell you, y'all, they do not like that. Are you talking about, if I understand this question correctly, using that LinkedIn to create a resume? If I understand
the question in the chat doesn't state it to be for LinkedIn or for resume. So should this be used? Ralph, are you talking about resumes or LinkedIn?
Oh, so for creating it into a resume.
For both.
So yeah, they don't.
Resume.
They don't prefer it. And the reason why is because I mentioned earlier that a LinkedIn profile is, I would say, industry specific, if I could shorten it. And then a resume is job specific. So industry, job, position specific. So if you are sending or using LinkedIn, like the resume builder, to build your resume, it's going to be so generic that they're not going to see the focus there.
Okay. All right. I agree with you. I follow a lot of recruiters that are in my network, and I want to see what they're saying so I could pass on the right information to you. And yes, I see this exact same thing. So for LinkedIn with different career focuses, should it be based as a simpler master type resume? Summary of you.
So I guess so, yes. But I guess, well, it depends. That's the safe answer. And so here's the reason why. So we mentioned before that when you're focusing on one resume at a time. If I'm focusing specifically on administration, right? This is an administration, but oh, wait, I want to do education too. It's going to be hard to show that in LinkedIn, and people are going to see that lack of focus. So I would say that you're going to have to narrow it down just a little bit, if you can, at least to the industry. So if you want to work in education, but maybe you would be okay with taking an administrative role in education, then focusing it that way. And really that comes down to, again, using the language, the industry language, the projects that you highlight, or the accomplishments that you highlight, that they are focused on how great of an administrator you are while working in the education system, even if it's volunteer experience, which is just as relevant as paid experience. Don't split that up. I don't think I mentioned that. Don't split that up. Hey, paid experience, unpaid, don't matter. It's experience. Put it all together. Don't demean it by putting it over there and say, oh, that's just volunteer. Nope. I've gotten a many paid jobs from volunteering.
There you go. Resume style changes, and it changes every 6 months or so. LaPora is the first one to talk about resume setup and style for 2022. Did it change from a couple months ago? No, but COVID changed a whole bunch of things, and styles and color and text boxes and just how you present yourself for different industries is something that is evolving and will change once again. So it is really important to, if you're in job search, to stay current about how to set up your resume and the different changes that might affect you. Maybe you caught the latest and greatest and you don't have to really tweak your resume. Maybe you have to do a little bit more than the average Joe. So, it depends is a perfect saying, as LaPora had said. One more question before we let you loose. Okay. If you're networking on LinkedIn, how can you be considered by others for other types of jobs? So is it best to use more transferable skills into your resume for your cover letter wide scope? Meaning more transferable skills in LinkedIn profile, not your resume to highlight your greatness and how awesome I am.
So I'm going to say this, if you're using LinkedIn, you don't be afraid of, in your networking, you're using that tool, don't be afraid of being specific. And the reason why I say that is because I think people don't understand the power of LinkedIn, and they don't understand the power of networking, like true, meaningful networking. It's okay to be focused because that's only part of LinkedIn. The other part, a really big part that a lot of people tend to forget, is the contact, messaging people. In addition to those information interviews, like I said, the recruiters that I know, they are game for talking to people about what they're interested in. So if I'll stick with the administration and education. If your profile is focused on education, but you are wanting to explore something different, contact a recruiter at a company that you're wanting to work for and say, hey, make sure you know that what jobs they have available. Say, hey, I see this particular job that you all have on your site. I would really like to talk to somebody about potentially what you're looking for moving into the future. Don't be afraid to have those conversations, because a lot of people don't. So imagine. And a
lot of recruiters want to have those conversations.
They need to fill the position
and not just receive resumes. They have no idea who they are. Yes. Well, I thank you for your time today, LaPora, because that was so awesome. And please keep in mind before you sign off, networking is key. Networking is huge. LaPora and I were connected from a fellow networking person.
That's true, yeah.
We didn't know each other. We never even met each other until this morning when we signed on to this program. And you had all said, oh my gosh, she's so awesome. Well, I kind of knew she was awesome. How did I know? Because I went to LinkedIn. I went to see what she's done, what she's published, who she's spoken for, as well as my contact. And I respect my contact as well. So when you take all of that in, LaPora went to the top of my, hey, guest speaker, as opposed to maybe the middle of the bottom, because of all of that. Networking can help you land a job as well. Have your documents in place, have your resume in place, state everything that you've done that is relevant on your LinkedIn profile, because in the end, it could help you and it's definitely not going to hurt you. So thank you again. I appreciate it. I will email you later on with a link to our recording, as well as all of the contact information for LaPora. So if you have any questions or a question that we did not get to address today, you can feel free to ask her. As you know, she is the person to go to for resume writing. Thanks again for coming, and we'll talk to you soon. Hopefully we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye.